Thank you for the work that all of you have done, and to all of our brothers and sisters, our friends, our neighbors, thank you for coming for this auspicious occasion. Mission vision. You want a mission vision? Let me see if I can bring this together. At the very birth of this nation, we all chose the following words to declare who we were as a people and to declare our independence when we sought freedom. You know the words. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Mission vision. As Americans, these words were our promise to each other. This promise binds us together as a people. It binds us together as a nation. One nation, D1, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all, both at the same time. Freedom and justice. And as we have marched together, we wonder whether or not peace is possible. Sometimes it's standing right in front of you. In other parts of the world, you have Muslims fighting Christians, Christians fighting Jews. But on this very stage today, you had a rabbi, you had a priest, you had prophets, and you had an imam. Peace is possible because it's with you here today. Amen? But from time to time, in our wonderful land, something goes wrong. As right as it is sometimes, every now and then, moments in history, sometimes we're divided in this country. Sometimes we're not indivisible. Sometimes we're divided by race. Sometimes we let ourselves get divided by class. Sometimes we get divided by income. Indeed, it's been a generation since a diverse group of men and women came together with ironclad will, with clear minds to destroy and eradicate Jim Crow. But you know today, that battle still goes on. Old wounds sometimes still fester. Inequality grows. And now, after the riots in Ferguson, demonstrations roiling the rest of the nation, we have to ask ourselves the question Dr. King posed to us. Where do we go from here? That's the bold title of the book. But the subtitle asks a question: chaos or community? But here's the thing, he didn't leave us hanging out there by himself. He did not give us the answer. He told us the answer. And you know the answer too. The answer is community. You know this. Pastor talked to me. A house divided against itself cannot stand. But to heal our divisions, we have to be able to hear each other. We have to be able to see each other. We have to be able to listen to each other. We have to be able to understand each other. That is what choosing community is about. It is a choice. It is a way. It is a decision. If we make that choice, once we start to listen rather than speak, see rather than look away from one another, we will realize a simple truth. You all know what it is. We're all the same. We all want the same thing. We want peace. We want prosperity. We want economic opportunity. We want safety. We want our kids to have a better life than us. Everybody wants to be treated fairly. No one wants to be the victim of crime. Nobody wants to be collateral damage, whether the bullet comes from a drug dealer's gun, a police officer's pistol, someone else shooting one of their buddies in fear, until all lives matter. All lives matter. We will not make progress. But today, instead of celebration of all life, we hear a constant drumbeat of death. So much wasted potential. D, you were talking about it. So much hurt, so much pain. And the pain stretches from Trayvon Martin's family in Florida to the Browns in Ferguson and to the Garners in New York. But you know what? It does not stop there. And in many instances, it doesn't begin there. This year, in our city, 150 mostly African-American men, our brothers and sisters, were murdered on the streets of New Orleans. 15,000 people murdered across the country. victims of this terrible cultural violence on the streets of America. And so we together as a community, indivisible, one nation, cry out for justice. And on any given night in every corner of our great nation, you know what else you find? Dedicated police officers trying to find the people who kill our brothers and sisters, trying to keep us safe. And just as a community demands the end to the terrible practice of racial profiling, which targets people based on the color of their skin, not by their actions, the community should likewise not judge individual police officers by their profession, but by their action as well. The over number of police officers in this nation show up every day to try to do the right thing for the right reason. But hear this, it is equally unwise to simply dismiss the legitimate concerns raised about some law enforcement because those problems are real. They're deep and they're wide. We can talk about where we are 50 years ago and how far we've come, but we still have to acknowledge together as a people we have a long way to go. Can I hear amen about that? We need to bridge a very real divide between the community and the police. Use procedural justice and make sure everybody is treated fairly, citizens and the police alike. After all, you got to know police officers are people too. They're our brothers and sisters. The streets are a dangerous place from time to time for those that protect and serve. And so we have to take a moment, not just to remember the young men and women that were taken from us on the streets, but we have to remember the police officers that were shot, Police Officer Lou and Rafael Ramos, and some in the city of New Orleans. And I want you to remember Police Officer Rodney Thomas. He was my buddy. He was the 110th member of the New Orleans Police Department to be killed trying to help and protect us. And the loss and pain is searing in the eyes of his wife, Rosalind. I've seen the overwhelming grief of a wife who will never see her beloved again. But hear me here. It's the same look and the same pain and grief I see in the eyes of Miss Patrina Peters, whose son was taken from her with violence on the street, and so many other mothers who have lost their children to the streets. The same sorrow I see in the eyes of Sabrina Fulton, Trayvon Martin's mama. Each is left with an empty spot at the family table, gone, but not forgotten. We can all understand this pain. It's our shared humanity, the tie that binds us together. And from here, we can understand the simple truth, our rallying cry, our mission statement: all lives matter. All lives matter. From the riots in Ferguson to the shootings of police officers and the daily death and destruction on our streets, make no mistakes, it is all part of the same whole poisonous fruit harvested from the same tree of hatred, of violence, of division, of economic injustice. And until we as a community choose community over chaos, until we weep and all march for every life lost, until we break down the barriers between the police and the community, until we speak for each other's right and strive to fulfill that great promise of America, we will not know peace. But we will when we do. Now hear this, people. Some are cynical. They believe that we cannot change. We showed you proof today that we could. You had warm bodies on the stage showing you what the future looks like, what it means when vision comes together with discipline and focus and patience and perseverance. You saw proof positive today. In New Orleans, we're proving them wrong. We're moving forward. We're making great progress. We are, despite our differences, and there are many, choosing to work together. NOLA for Life comprehensive strategy. We're focused on preventing and stopping the shooting. Murder's at a historic low. That's good, but guess what? It's still way too high. With the welcome table for racial reconciliation, people are coming together. We're chipping away at the walls that have divided us. And with our new economic development strategy, we're putting people to work with a pathway to prosperity in both word and deed. We have to follow the wisdom imparted to us by Dr. King, because we in New Orleans, see, we have made our choice. To have a future, we choose community. We choose each other. And this is what it looks like when people come together. And just like 50 years ago, when 20-somethings like Dr. King and John Lewis led the struggle, conscientious leaders of the day like D1, like B. Mike are picking up the mantle of leadership that's showing us what enduring galvanizing power of art and music, and how a brave new world of instant communication can help us address some of our age-old problems, just a new way of fixing what's been with us for a long time. This is all of our task, to keep moving forward together. After all, the struggle for justice did not begin or die with Dr. King. He was a fellow traveler. He was a witness on history's road to freedom and a better world. And now, as D1 has charged us, that has fallen to us, to each and every one of us, to carry on. Indeed, each generation comes to this point. Each generation has to make a choice. Each generation, for a moment, grips that arc of history and it bends it one way or the other, either forward or back. We are not only the heirs of Dr. King's legacy, we are its stewards. It is in our care. We are responsible lest Dr. King's dream becomes a dream forever deferred or forever denied. We can get there, but only if we go from here choosing each other, choosing community, marching together as one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. God bless all of you. Let's go honor Dr. King. Thank you all for coming.